Former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith will testify publicly next week about his investigations into President Trump. Smith has been testifying behind closed doors about the probes that led to 2 indictments. He led investigations into Trump's hoarding of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida and his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Both cases were abandoned once Trump won the White House in 2024, since the sitting president can't be indicted. Trump argues the Department of Justice was politically weaponized against him, while Smith testifies he has proof beyond a reasonable doubt both cases were based on evidence.
Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he has been waiting to hear those questions asked for several months now. Senator, let me begin with the question that Mr. Homan refused to answer. Would you be comfortable if the FBI releases those recordings?
I mean, if he says he's done nothing wrong and it's totally, everything he did was totally appropriate, why would you not allow those recordings to be released? Why would that be inappropriate? And by the way, when the FBI delivers $50,000 in an operation like this, there's a whole procedure of paperwork and reports that they have to go through to get access to that cash. And they have to then report what became of it. Did they get it back? And so there's an actual federal record through the FBI about this $50,000. And we can't get answers to those questions. We asked Attorney General Bondi about it. We've got a FOIA out about it. These are fairly standard records. And so, you know, when Homan said, you know, these questions, they just go on and on and on and on and on. Well, duh, the reason they keep going on and on and on is because you won't answer, where's the $50,000? And between him and the FBI, they know where the $50,000 is. And yet here we are months later, and they still won't answer.
So the great thing about Kristen Welker staying specifically on the $50,000 is she just established the best record yet of what Mr. Homan has to say about the $50,000. And he says, I didn't take $50,000 from anyone. He also says, I didn't return $50,000. Well, one of those answers is provable on video. There is reportedly a video of that guy sitting in a room with undercover FBI agents who are doing an undercover video. And on that video, we will see him take the $50,000 or not take the $50,000. And if he can show a video of him not taking the $50,000, wouldn't they rush to get that video out there?
Yeah. And there's highly likely to be an FBI 302 also, the investigative form that they fill out after an interview or an episode like this, where they come back to the office and they write down what took place. So they've got a contemporaneous record that the tape would then support. So there's a ton of evidence about what actually happened, and the MAGA DOJ just won't let it out because they don't want their guy to be embarrassed.
And it's very clear. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump had to invent a job that does not require Senate confirmation in order for him to be working in the federal government now.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing that's kind of a riot, if you think about today's recent news and the subpoena to Jay Powell, Jeanine Pirro's explanation for that is because that they weren't getting answers, they weren't getting complete answers, they weren't getting timely answers, and so they had to resort to a subpoena. Well, false, incomplete, and untimely answers is sort of the hallmark of this administration. So the idea that they're aggravated by false, incomplete, or untimely answers, I mean, the irony is rich. And this guy is the perfect example of false, incomplete, or untimely answers.
And clearly his game was he was going to stay off TV long enough for this to cool down. But Kristen Welker didn't see it that way. And the record is now lucky because of her persistence on that. And it comes down to a very simple, provable thing with the video. There's a video that will show him taking the money or not taking the money. And it seems to me, if the Democrats win the Senate next year and you have more control over this Justice Department, would you at that point have more power to get this video?
Yes, and even more would come through the House Judiciary Committee, because a House Judiciary subpoena doesn't need to go through a filibusterable Senate for enforcement. Whereas, as we saw with our subpoenas to try to get to the bottom of Clarence Thomas's many scandals to Leonard Leo and other people, the Senate Republicans refused to allow the enforcement of the subpoena to proceed through the Senate floor. So we have an additional hurdle in the Senate at getting subpoenas enforced. The House can go right at it. And so one way or the other, whether it's a Chairman Raskin or potentially a Chairman Whitehouse in the Senate Judiciary Committee, this is going to come out sooner or later. But, I think their hope is by then they're gone and, getting paid by somebody else, and that's the end of it. All they need to do is get through this moment. But I think it's going to come out, and it just has to.
Chairman-to-be Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
A new term, another Supreme Court scandal. We're not even a month into the Supreme Court's new term, and yet another bombshell report has surfaced, this one focusing on the Trump administration's handling of allegations of sexual misconduct against Justice Brett Kavanaugh. This week, Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse released a report accusing the administration of steering a flawed and incomplete investigation of the sexual assault allegations against Kavanaugh that came to light in 2018, before Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court was confirmed. The report, titled Unworthy of Reliance, details the Trump's White House efforts to thwart the FBI's probe into the Supreme Court pick. The sexual assault allegations themselves were first raised in 2018 by the law professor Christine Blasey Ford. She accused Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct in the 1980s. Later, two additional women also came forward with similar claims. This week's report found that the Trump White House exercised total control over the investigation, including preventing the FBI from following up on numerous leads and blocking interviews with key witnesses. The Trump administration also allegedly instructed the FBI not to use its tip line, instead forwarding tips that were intended for law enforcement directly to the White House. According to the report, quote, if anything, the White House may have used the tip line to steer FBI investigators away from derogatory or damaging information, end quote. Unsurprisingly, the FBI's sham investigation failed to uncover corroborating evidence, and the Senate confirmed Kavanaugh shortly thereafter. In other words, Americans were collectively hoodwinked to secure the nomination of an unelected ideological extremist who would go on to become part of a right-wing bloc of justices that has mounted an unprecedented assault on our democratic foundations, and specifically against the freedom and bodily autonomy of American women. This includes recent decisions that drastically weaken the authority of federal agencies tasked with protecting the public in critical areas, from environmental protection